Cleopatra did not die at the instant Egypt collapsed. She lived through what followed. In August of 30 BC, Roman troops entered the royal palace in Alexandria. They did not arrive to execute her. They arrived to secure her not as a ruler, not even as a person, but as an asset. Doors were closed. Guards were positioned at every passage. Visitors were filtered. Belongings were listed and removed. The war was finished. Her confinement had begun. What unfolded during those final weeks was not a tale of venom or serpents. It was a procedure deliberate, controlled, and engineered to accomplish something more final than death. This is what actually happened. When Octavian's forces entered Alexandria on August 1st, 30 BC, the city surrendered without resistance. No siege occurred. No walls fell. No fires burned. The takeover was bureaucratic. Cleopatra remained inside her palace, but ownership had changed. Roman soldiers entered in ordered ranks. They did not raid the structure. They assumed control of it. Entrances were reassigned. Interior paths were charted. Certain chambers were sealed. Others were emptied. Guards were installed now to protect her, but to observe her. Ancient writers describe sentries positioned at fixed distances. Plutarch notes that soldiers were instructed to prevent any attempt at self-harm. Dio Cassius records that food deliveries were inspected. Blades were removed. Mirrors confiscated. Cosmetics searched. This was not imprisonment. It was containment. Cleopatra was permitted movement within assigned zones. She could speak to servants if those servants were approved. She could send messages if they were reviewed. She could request objects if they passed inspection. Every action required authorization. Every authorization was delayed. Her possessions still surrounded her. Furniture remained. Garments were accessible. But the building itself had been redefined. It was no longer a center of authority. It was a holding site. Outside the palace, Alexandria continued, markets functioned. Temples reopened. Grain shipments resumed. Roman officials began recording taxes, surveying land, and questioning administrators. Inside, time stalled. Cleopatra was not executed. She was not interrogated. She was not tortured. She was preserved. Days passed without outcome. Cleopatra sent repeated requests to meet Octavian. They were acknowledged. They were not answered. Letters were delivered. Replies were postponed. Proposals were submitted. Decisions were deferred. Roman authority did not deny her directly. It processed her slowly. This delay was intentional. Roman control operated through procedure. Outcomes were shaped not by refusal, but by time management. Each unanswered request reinforced one fact: she could no longer initiate anything. Her daily existence became defined by absence. Meals arrived unpredictably. Attendants rotated without pattern. Requests were recorded but unresolved. The palace transformed into a diagram of limitation. Some corridors were open, others closed. Some rooms stayed furnished. Others were stripped bare. Spaces she had navigated for years were reorganized into zones of permission. This was not incarceration in the usual sense. It was spatial reassignment. Cleopatra had ruled Egypt for 21 years. She had negotiated with Julius Caesar. She had commanded fleets. She governed an empire spanning Syria to Syria. She spoke 9 languages. She presided over diplomacy, religion, and war. None of that applied now. She could not bargain with guards who followed orders. She could not command soldiers outside her authority. She could not invoke alliances that no longer existed. Every mechanism she once used, persuasion, alliance, delay, wealth, had been removed. What remained was her body, and Rome had calculated its value. While Cleopatra remained confined, Rome was already rewriting who she was. That process had begun earlier. After Actium in 31 BC, Octavian's propaganda campaign reshaped her image. Official records avoided royal titles. Speeches described her not as a sovereign, but as a corrupting foreign force. Coins stopped carrying her likeness. Written accounts emphasized seduction instead of governance. Her capture did not start this narrative. it completed it. To Roman audiences, Cleopatra was no longer Egypt's pharaoh or dynastic stabilizer. She was an enema catalogued, verified, and prepared for display. Roman law required physical proof for triumph. Victory was not declared. It was exhibited. Weapons came first. Then treasures. Then leaders. Cleopatra was being saved for that order, but survival alone was insufficient. She had to be transformed from ruler into exhibit. That transformation occurred through language. Officials stopped addressing her by title. Messages referred to her as the Egyptian or the woman. Diplomatic protocol was replaced with captive handling instructions. Her authority was not eliminated. It was reclassified. Inside the palace, this shift became physical. Royal seals were confiscated. Ceremonial items catalogued. Administrative correspondence removed. Anything linked to governance was separated from her quarters. What remained were personal effects and even those were examined. Jewelry and cosmetics inspected. Clothing assessed. Roman officials determined what belonged to the state and what did not. Cleopatra watched this process unfold. She could observe. She could not object. On August 3rd, 30 BC2, days after occupation, Cleopatra was granted an audience with Octavian. This was not negotiation. It was evaluation. The meeting occurred inside her palace, but the room had been cleared. Guards lined every exit. Furniture was rearranged. The space she had ruled for decades was now Roman territory. Octavian entered with scribes, not advisors. Scribes. The encounter was being recorded. Fragments of the exchange survive. Cleopatra attempted to justify her alliance with Mark Antony. She presented financial accounts. She offered access to treasuries. She requested protection for her children. Octavian listened. He neither rejected nor accepted. He acknowledged. Then he departed. The meeting lasted under an hour. No agreements, no guarantees, no schedule. But it achieved its purpose. It confirmed Cleopatra believed negotiation remained possible. That belief was useful. As long as she expected resolution, she would comply. She would not flee. She would not resist. She would wait. And waiting was exactly what Rome required. Plutarch records that Cleopatra believed progress had been made. She mistook restraint for mercy. It was not mercy, it was control. Her fate was already decided. Only the timing was withheld. Cleopatra's authority had always depended on succession. Her eldest son, Caesarion, acknowledged as Julius Caesar's biological heir, posed a problem. A legitimate son undermined Octavian's claim. A living Caesar with royal lineage was dangerous. Caesarion was 17. He was evacuated south before Alexandria fell. Sources differ on whether he returned willingly or was intercepted. What is certain is that he was executed shortly after. The method is unknown. Plutarch quotes Octavian's advisor Arius. Too many Caesars is not good. Caesarion was eliminated. The younger children were not. Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus were taken alive. They were not prisoners. They were reassigned. Rome absorbed the children of defeated enemies. They were transported to Rome, placed in households, raised under supervision. Cleopatra Selene would later marry Juba II and rule Mauritania. But this future was not presented as comfort. It was removal. The children would live, but not as Egyptians, not as Ptolemies, not as heirs. They became Roman property. Cleopatra understood. Her leverage vanished. Their safety no longer depended on her. The separation unfolded gradually. First, new quarters. Then, Roman attendance. Then altered schedules. Then Latin instruction. Visits were permitted then, limited then, supervised then ended. By the time Cleopatra died, her children were gone. They were no longer hers. Octavian's intention had been clear from the beginning. Cleopatra would be taken to Rome, displayed, tenar kabed. Roman triumphs were bureaucratic rituals. Every element was ordered. Cleopatra would have appeared late in the procession after symbols, after lesser captives. The delay was deliberate. It prolonged humiliation. Triumphs lasted hours. She would have walked the entire route bound, exposed, silent, from Campus Martis to the Capitoline, every witness Roman. But preparation took time. Captives traveled weeks. They were housed, maintained, controlled. Cleopatra would have waited months. Rome preferred her alive after triumph. Death before display was failure. That pressure accelerated planning. Ships prepared. Facilities inspected. Schedules drafted. Cleopatra was told nothing. Uncertainty prevented resistance. That was the design. Around August 10th, 30 BC, days after Alexandria fell, Cleopatra died. The method remains disputed. Plutarch describes an ASP. Dio Cassius suggests poison. Strabo notes, no snake was found. Mechanism uncertain. Context clear. She died before Rome could transport her. Rome adapted. In 29 BC, Octavian celebrated his triple triumph. For Egypt, Cleopatra appeared as an effigy. A statue depicted her dead with an aspi. That was sufficient. Beside it walked her children in chains. They were not harmed. They were evidence. Egypt was absorbed. Afterward, the children were reassigned. They were raised Roman. Cleopatra Selene ruled elsewhere. Her brothers vanished from record. This was the result of Cleopatra's captivity, not death through direction. Rome did not erase her. It selected the version that survived, and for 2,000 years, that version endured. Not the diplomat, not the administrator, not the commander. But the image Rome archived. Cleopatra was not destroyed. She was replaced. That is what Rome did, not execution. Substitution. History does not always kill its enemies. Sometimes it files them away. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe to Crimson Historians. There is more waiting inside.